morning after Junho phone called me about Dungeon Raid as he told me I actually look like I should recruit. With me just signed, of course. What I expect anything else. And I was zero people and some people who are incredibly low rank. Even doesn't care. Even some who are actually younger. Wouldn't even ask need to bring a kid here. Of course Junho explains that she's an awakener. So I'll just cite anything to myself. Kids these days really need together. Of course, tells me that she's a full-fledged hunter, with of course me glancing calmly at her, asking her if she's had any experience since I had my experience fair share being an A-rank hunter, and I can tell that she's also an A-rank hunter by just sensing her mana. I'm actually mana after I achieve the system, so I can basically sense if someone is much more lower ranking in comparison to other hunters. I cannot sense the strength of an S or an A rank, but I can at least tell the difference between an E and B rank, and I can clearly tell that she's an E rank, just like I was previously, though her strength is measly weaker than mine, since I did train ever since I was a child. So, with her being this physically weak, it would not surprise me of her being an E rank. So, she'll mostly be considered weak as an E rank if I actually consider trying myself. Though I still do, it seems like she's actually weaker than me even previously before the system itself. So I'm not like able to actually beat her if I was given a chance. But I told her that she needs much more experience, not just to be a full-fledged hunter. She needs to experience a dungeon raid and even more of being a true hunter. The coach is taken aback by my words, as I did not actually discourage her, but instead trying to guide her. First, she must grow as a person. Trying to graduate school first, and eventually try to focus on her hunter job. But I told her that being a hunter does not only just means to get money for yourself, but also to protect innocent people. So she has to listen to me, at least for once. Of course, I then eventually turned to Jinho, and told him that he should not wear this armor, this would be too much heavy. As I push him, he falls to the ground, and Jinho decides to agree with me to take off the armor. Just wearing the helmet will be more than enough, since I will protect him from the beasts. He just needs to mind the oars. That's all he needs to do. Of course, I'll just sigh to myself as I realize that he's being really dramatic, and I'm not surprised at that. But I also would have noticed that my level is actually close to what I want, though I still need to level up a little bit more. Eventually, both me and Joe would casually talk together as we go into the dungeon, while the other people will be surprised that only just the two of us will be going inside there, being surprised that we actually go into a C rank dungeon. Eventually, a couple of minutes or around an hour and a half would pass, and eventually me and Juho would eventually exit the gate, with Juho asking me if I was tired, but I already told him that I'm not, and maybe should go to the next dungeon, with of course Juho nodding. Of course, all the hunters then look to a dungeon which we came out of, and see that is actually collapsing and it's finally closed, meaning that we cleared the dungeon. Of course, so Juho to guide us up out to the next gate, with him nodding as he then guides me. Inside the next gate, there will be a werewolf-like monsters. With all of them scared, and eventually I will appear, utilizing my camouflage. As I will to find them. Of course, they'll try to look around for my presence, but due to me concealing myself alongside not receiving any bloodlust, they cannot even sense me, which is a pretty good thing for me. And before they can even react, I'll be able to slash them, easily cutting all of them down. I'll easily able to appear right beside them, easily killing all of them with ease, showing no difficulty in doing so, since with my constant leveling up, alongside increased stats, I've grown even more powerful. Of course, you will also be impressed by my skills and how strong I've become, seemingly being surprised that I was actually able to grow stronger than before, since in comparison to a battle that I had previously with a C rank, I'm not able to handle a C rank dungeons by myself, something that even C rank hunters will find pretty challenging, even someone like B ranks as well, though not much. I was just remaining calm as I realized that I've indeed gotten a lot stronger, even stronger than before. With my current strength, I'll most likely be around the range of a B to around a low A rank hunter, which makes me pretty happy. Which means that my current strength will be around an A rank to a possibly around low S rank, which is pretty good. Meaning that my physical strength will be far beyond anything else. Meaning that if I were to achieve around S rank level, I'll have already a strength around close to a national rank level, which already makes me excited, though I can still keep my composure. Of course, I also glance at my stats window, as I also put some of my stats into, of course, senses, agility, strength, health, and of course, intelligence. Let me basically focus more on intelligence than anything else. That's how needed more than anything else. But eventually, I also be able to level one of my skills. I want to say to learn another two skills, being critical attack and of course advanced dagger technique, which is beneficial for me since I use daggers most of the time. So having those was pretty good. I want to say I'll glance at my camouflage skill. Ever since I acquired this skill, it's been pretty useful. And due to my larger mana, I can basically utilize it around a couple of times as I want. Though of course the effect of the camouflage of 1 mana per second to keep it up will most likely be a real pain in the ass for now, but after I'm able to increase my mana to around 10,000 or higher, this will be basically a walk in a park and I'm not even bothered with it. And if I'm able to level it up even more, the mana consumption will most likely stay the same and the effects will just increase as well, which makes me happy. Of course, drink the amount of potions so I can basically recover my mana, since I want to keep myself in top shape, since I know that something will come, and eventually, after killing another monster, and I spawn it as well, I'm able to easily kill it, dodging its attack and striking it, utilizing my passive skill of advanced dagger technique, and of course, activating the critical attack, easily able to overwhelm my opponent, killing him in just 3 blows. I will just smile as I level up once again, with me smiling, saying that these skills are not bad at all, as I like them a lot. Eventually, I'll also glance at stats win, which will appear, saying that I have now the acquired level, have achieving a job change quest. Of course, I won't think to myself, finally, after my hard work, I can finally test my strength in a job change quest. Of course, after me and Jinwoo would have walked out, I'll tell him that I have something to do. So tell him that we'll take care of the other dungeons tomorrow. Of course, Jinwoo was actually surprised to hear that, since he thought that maybe we could continue on the whole day. But I told him that for now we can rest, since I believe that for now we have done more than enough. Of course, Jinwoo decides to listen to my word. But eventually, I'll be greeted by Hans Swangmin, a member of the White Tiger Guild, with me actually being surprised. And I actually didn't expect to actually draw attention to myself that quickly. It seems like even with my look currently, even with my hiding my identity too much, it seems like the White Tiger Guild was still able to find me. Of course, we discussed some things together, with him trying to convince me of joining the White Tiger Guild, but instead I decided to offer him something else. To pay 2 million won for the next dungeons, each one being around 200 million won if he is willing to pay. Of course, he's surprised actually hearing this from me. I told that I can offer him 5 gates for 200 million won if he wants that. I can roll the price to at least 100 million won if he wants the deal to be fully clear. Of course, he decides to agree to the deal since he believes that he cannot do anything to me, and I even threatened him utilizing my camouflage. And eventually, I will decide to leave, also healing and utilizing healing potion. Of course, he'll be surprised by my abilities and tell me if he's earned my trust. But I tell him that if he keeps everything a secret, then maybe he'll have it. Of course, he's surprised, but eventually also learns that I also been selling gates for at least 100 times lower than the original price, with him being shocked. But also he receives a message from me, saying that I forget the fact that he ran a back check on my background, with of course him just signing on a leave. At least he doesn't have to deal with someone as powerful as me. I still believe that if I would continue to grow as I am right now, I must be able to reach an S rank sooner or later. Around midnight, when the sun is about to go down, I would have walked around the mountains calmly, as I will smile to myself. Finally, the job change quest has come, and I'm ready for it. I've been preparing myself ever since I got the system. I've been preparing myself to face the job change quest ever since I got in the system itself. I've been praying only just for this. Now, I'm ready. And eventually, the gate opened, with me just smiling. And I think to myself, well, this will definitely be difficult, but as one man once said, without hard work, you can't get anything. I smiled to myself as I remember my parents from my past life alongside my siblings, but I also remember my current life. And I think to myself, time to put my hard work into use. As I walked inside the gate, eventually being enveloped, as I round in the hallway. And of course, I'll be able to confront multiple knights and eventually defeat one of them. Of course, I'll be pretty surprised, but not that much, since I know that my test will be with knights, and I know who the strongest of them will be. Of course, I will stay calm and collective, knowing that I must be on guard if I'm to face even more opponents. And also save up a lot of my mana, since I know in this place there are a lot of limitations to my abilities. As I cannot even utilize any potion, nor the shop function, nor I can recover my HP. I can only recover myself through leveling up, so it's the only way I can do that. Though of course I will also realize that I can now recover my full HP with my leveling up, but I can only just increase my stats. But with this is more than enough, since I know that I must be very resourceful in this battle. Of course, I just remain calm as I know my limitations, so I know that I must utilize my skills as safely as possible, and of course saved up a lot of mana. But since I have spent plenty of points to intelligence, I have tons of mana, so I don't have to worry much about it, but I still keep in check just in case if I run out of it. So I'll make sure to at least deal with beasts without utilizing mana and just utilizing my physical strength, nothing else. Of course, multiple other Rust Knights will appear, with me just smiling as I look at them. And eventually, I'll rush at them, instantly able to defeat most of them, and eventually defeating them. As I get multiple notifications of defeating multiple knights. Of course, I will remain calm as these knights are not that big of a deal, since their physical strength is not that big, though their durability is pretty impressive due to the armor. Eventually, I was trying to take one of them, with me of course noticing the items that they dropped, with me smiling as I realized that at least they're useful for something else other than combat. I'd eventually take the items, eventually I was able to put the armor on, as I know that it will basically be a transparent, meaning that you will not be seen, but the effects will still be able to be usable nonetheless, with me just smiling, seeing that is a very beneficial thing that the system always was able to do. Of course, I continue on with my path, but I also notice the other rewards I can gain 3000 gold, which is pretty good, since I need to save out a lot of gold, since I know I'll need a powerful weapon sooner or later. But of course, before I can actually do all more things, Anastasia tries to attack me, but before we can even do that, due to my sense stat being increased so high, I was able to notice him and instantly I was able to use my dart to stab him, killing him instantly. Of course, I remain calm, but also cautious, knowing that I cannot let my guard down in this dungeon, since this is a job change quest dungeon. So I must be ready and on guard all time. Of course, multiple other knights and of course archers, mages, and even assassins will appear, with me just staying calm, as I know what I must do. I must fight with everything I got, though save up my strength, at least use around 50%, and only utilize my physical strength since I know my fatigue will also build up the more longer I fight, so I need to end this quickly, without utilizing too much mana, nor getting tired too easily. Eventually, after around 20 minutes, I'm able to defeat all of them. Though it was not that difficult, they did prove to be a slight challenge. But with multiple potions I was able to get, I was able to basically recover myself, alongside decrease my fatigue by a large amount. Alongside gain an extra amount of gold, with me just smiling. And eventually would have required a lot of equipment, with reaching around from A to all the way around to C rank, which I'm pretty happy. Though I wish that I could have gotten at least multiple A rank equipments, at least around B to C rank would just do enough, since I know this will be more than enough for other low rank monsters, except one I know that I must face, and I'll be facing it really soon. Of course, I'll glance at the large door, with me feeling a slight shiver down my spine, but I grit my fists together, knowing that I must be ready and stay calm and cautious. This will be one of the challenges I'll face, one of two, and I know I must be ready. I am ready. As I entered, I remained calm as I glance in front of me, as once and for all, I'll face my real challenger, and one of many. Igorous, the Blood Red Commander. I glanced at him as I shined as he glanced at me. With me, ran a calm look as I glared back at Egress, with Egress simply showing the cold look as he looks back at me. I also sweat slightly, as I know that with my current physical strength, I'll most likely be not an equal to Egress, but with my speed and with my increased intelligence, I can at least be able to be equal to him without fighting him without any weapons. Though, I also glance at my stats, since I know, even with my current stats, my fatigue is actually really high, even though I didn't want to be high. And I've wasted a little bit of my mana, alongside my HP has also gone significantly, but not by a large amount, though still, I wish I could have at least been at max. It would be much more easier with that than being as I'm currently, but I decided not to dwell on it. Eventually, I also saw the name above Egress being red, but instead of being dark red, it was just a normal red color. I realized to myself that maybe because of me basically constantly boosting my stats, it most likely means that Egress will not be as huge of a threat as he was in the original timeline, though still, he'll be a really powerful threat nonetheless, so I do not need to underestimate him. Not in the slightest. Eventually, he would try to rush at me with his immense sword, but I able to notice his movements. Even though he's moving really fast, his sword is pretty long, so it's really easy to notice it. And I'm able to dodge his attack, just barely. And with my agility, I'm actually able to dodge it way faster than June did in the original timeline. Of course, Igor is actually caught off guard by this, but I remain calm as I continue to dodge attacks, as I want to tire out Igorus before attacking him. Of course, Igorus tries to attack me multiple times, but it doesn't work, as I'm able to dodge the attacks, with me just barely able to dodge them. Eventually, I'll jump back, and eventually able to make some distance from us, with Igorus being slightly caught off guard by this. But I'm just throw my weapons away, and saying to Igorus that it's time. Hand-to-hand combat. This is something that I'm very good at. Even without my weapons, I'm very good at close combat. Ever since I started my training, I've been training my close combat ever since I was 14. So I'm really more experienced than Joel was in the original timeline. Eventually, Igor decided to also throw all his weapons away, alongside his escape, as he knows that it will slow him down. He then gets ready and eventually rushes at me, with me eventually utilizing my skill speed and increasing my speed, able to get Igor off guard as I punch him in the stomach. Though he's not damaged by much, he's caught off guard as his wind is knocked out of him. I remain calm and of course serious as I continue to fight with Igorus. Of course, Igorus tries to slam his hand at me, but I'm able to smack it away, basically equaling my strength with Igorus, as I know that my physical strength will most likely be equivalent to Igorus without the sword. So it's really good that I put most of my stats into others, not just strength. Because unlike jinwoo, my senses are actually much more sharper, so I can tell that when Igorus is actually about to move. So I was able to actually deflect his attack. Eventually we will continue to clash with each other. And with the armor that I have actually equipped myself, I'm able to actually tank most of Igor's hits, as both of us will clash with each other. I also noticed that my fatigue is actually increasing, but I had to continue to fight Igor's. And eventually, when Igor's is about to throw a punch, I see some of my dagger and stab him in the eye. I tell him that he should not underestimate me, as I'm not like any other opponents he has faced before. I then slam him into the wall, and of course he's caught off guard, as the pain that he feels in his eye is too immense for him. He tries to pull out the dagger, but I instantly summon in my other hand, and eventually I stab him in the throat, instantly utilizing my other skills like critical attack, bleed, and paralyze, utilizing every skill that I had into this one blow and putting all my strength into it, killing Igorus in this one strike. Eventually, Igorus falls as white blood drips out of him as he finally dies, his eyes going black. I will panic slightly as I realize that it's been actually much more tougher than I expected, though at least I was able to survive, and I actually have much more health and mana saved up than I originally expected. It seems like I only need to utilize some of my other skills except camouflage, at least that is a good thing. I panicked slightly as I also glanced at the items that I got. Well, of course, since I'm notifying me that I defeated Igorus, I almost leveled up twice. I also glanced at the items that I had and I was smile really happy, as I have gained really good items like Commander's Touch, a leather pouch, and an instant teleportation stone, with me knowing that the challenge is not over yet. Though I also would have been happy of how much I got, getting 1.5 million gold, which I smiled to myself, as I think that this is more than enough gold for me to buy the weapon I want. Though of course I cannot utilize the sharp function just yet. I know when I am able to utilize it, so I was ready nonetheless. I would smile happily. But also would realize that I actually got an S rank item, which basically decreases the damage I have taken by 50%, plus being able to increase my health by 20 and my strength by 20. It was actually my first ever S rank item that I gotten, and I was very happy about it. As I put it on, I was very impressed, and I even liked the look. And even the red gold that it actually had around it, I actually really liked it, and even think to myself that it was very beneficial. Of course, I also glanced at my stats and seeing the current boost in power. Indeed, these stats were much higher than jinwoo's were in the original timeline, and I was happy about it. I also glanced at the ruined stones of Commander's Touch and of course the instant teleportation stone, which of course when destroyed are able to be teleported away from the dungeon. Though of course I know that this challenge is not over yet. Of course, I'll remain calm and just put them in my pockets, knowing that I'll be able to utilize them later. For now, they'll be not needed. I eventually glance outside as I know what's coming, with me getting prepared, as I pull out my Kasaka's dagger as I grip it in one of my hands, ready, as multiple Black Knights will appear out of the portal, ready to fight me. But the Iron Man calm as I activate Bloodlust as all of them come out, as I'm able to decrease all their stats by 50% as I can start to battle them, as immense battle begin to go on. With me fighting the knights, as multiple cards will appear. With me defeating 15, but more of them start to come out. With me continuously defeating more and more, but I start to get tired, exhausted. I started to feel like my mana and my HP was going down immensely, and my fatigue was increasing. I was getting slower and slower, as I realized that I was actually starting to lose the battle. I continued to pant, but eventually I was striked in the back, as I eventually was losing 500 of my HP as I grunted in pain, but able to endure it. I remained calm, but eventually I heard a voice, as that shook me to my very core. Why? Why was I hearing it? Why was he here now? It shouldn't be happening. I should continue to be focused on the battle, not think about this right now. But eventually, as I glance outside, I see, being none other than my past self, or what I fear it was my past self. I actually deep down know that this is not really me. It's just an illusion of my fears. It's not real. Or is it? I already know the real answer to it, but I keep it vague to myself since I didn't want this me to think otherwise. Though of course he tries to say that no matter what I do, no matter what I become, I'll still be the same E rank hunter that I was before. I tell him to shut up, saying that he doesn't know me. He maybe looks like me, but he never was me. He never had my determination. And I just glanced at him with a slight smile, asking him if he truly knows everything about me. Of course, the replica of me just looks at me slightly, confused, but realizes what I'm implying. And he just sighs, telling me to do what I wish, since it's my choice, not his. And eventually he disappears. I sigh slightly. It is time to have to deal with a bastard like him anymore. Of course, one night overwhelms me as my HP and mana were at critical levels, with my fatigue also increasing immensely. I'll start to lose my consciousness, but before I can lose it, I see my daily quest window. I will smile to myself as I realize that I have not actually done the daily quest. As I smile to myself, I think, yes, my luck is still there. Just a nick of time. And before the night can actually finish me off, I'll disappear, go into a penalty zone. I would then wake up with a jolt of shock as I pant silently, being woken up by the heat as I eventually looked around. As I realized that this was the penalty zone, I will just sigh in relief, saying that I had gotten incredibly lucky as I glanced at how much HP I had, and realized that it was at critical levels. If I actually not been saved by the penalty, I most likely would have been a dead weight. I just chuckled to myself, saying that I have a lot of room to grow. But I know that very well. I'll just have to not underestimate myself. Though, also not underestimate my opponents too. I'll just chuckle to myself. And eventually I was had to buy some potions to recover my mana, almost like heal myself fully. I eventually cracked my neck as I decided that it's time for me to grind some centipedes. Eventually, After 4 hours have passed, I went to defeat all the centipedes. Almost I leveled up until 4 times. More than enough for me, as I smiled to myself. I eventually outglanced and eventually asked the system for to activate the system function. I eventually outglanced and then I killed her. I eventually bought it. This is what I wanted ever since I saved up a lot of gold. And of course, outglanced and the dagger. It was a much more higher level than even the Kasaka's dagger. And I was very happy about it, since it's more than enough. And it can even pierce through monsters which are around have tougher armor, which is very useful. And it deals an additional 25% more damage, which is very beneficial for me. I smile to myself as I think this will be more than enough for I will need to feed those pesky knights, and of course the necromancers beside them. Of course, I also glance at the commander's touch skill and eventually crush it, gaining it as an I know that I don't need any mana. But with my current intelligence also my stats, I can at least lift up something really heavy. Though not as extremely heavy as a centipede, I decided to at least utilize it in the future. Since this skill will be a much more better use in the long term, since I can utilize it as many times as I want without needing to consume mana, so it'll be more beneficial than anything else, even more than camouflage. So eventually, as I return back into the Dark Range Quest dungeon, I'll just glance at the knights, as I see that their numbers actually multiply by thousands, but I remain undeterred. As I grab my knight's killer alongside my Kasaka's dagger, I remain calm and then ask him to come at me. And eventually I'll rush at them, and eventually, after a couple of hours and minutes, I'm able to defeat most of the knights, as I panned, alongside defeating necromancers and mages, as I finally have defeated all of them and completed the Job Change quest. I sighed to myself as I realized that it seems that with the knife I was able to actually finish it much more easier than expected. I was happy about my progress. Eventually I also glanced at the windows which will appear, and of course the lines that will also appear, with me reading them calmly as I know what is about to come. I will just glance and of course smile slightly at each one, when eventually the final one will appear, saying that my job has been Necromancer. I will smile to myself. Finally, I have achieved it. Of course, I'll accept it, and eventually, with additional points that I've gained, also not utilizing most of my HP, also how much HP I've been saved up, also in the entire battle, and everything as well. I have a lot of points saved up, and because of that, I'm able to promote from normal Necromancer all the way up to a Monarch of Shadows. I smile to myself as I also acquire a new job specific skills, with me smiling, also achieving an additional bonus to my stats, as I smile to myself. Finally, I have achieved what I always wanted. Now, nothing can stop me now. I smile to myself. And eventually, the system asks me for a command which I'll need to utilize shadow extraction. Of course, I'll smile and say, arise. And with this one word, I'm able to rise multiple of shadows. With me smiling as I realize that I can actually revive so many soldiers with no difficulty. And due to my mana pool being much larger, I'm actually much more prepared than Jinwoo. I will of course glance at the skill shadow extraction, but instead of actually being able to revive just 30, I can actually revive all the way around to 40, which surprises me. Also, I can actually save up around 35 of my shadows, thanks to shadow preservation, with me smiling at this, saying that I actually can save up even more soldiers, and if I continue to increase my intelligence, it means I can save up even more soldiers in the future. I smile to myself and I think that this is very good. Of course, glance at Igoress, and eventually I'll say something different than Jinwoo. And I told Igoress that he doesn't need to wait for his king anymore. Instead, he can try and protect me as his new leader and his new king. Someone who will be beside him and always help him in his time of need, but also be my loyal right-hand man. I then tell Igoress to rise. As Charles begins to cover him, a burst of blue aura starts to cover around the area, with me just smiling. It seems that he accepted it, and this was actually my first try. I guess I'm really lucky. You were more lucky than the June was in the original timeline. I'm glad. As I smile, and I decide to name the Blood Red Commander Igoress to simply Igoress, as I glance at his level, as he is level 7, and his rank is Knight, as I know that Knight Night rank is above around the standard or common or around elite rank. So his level is already impressive. Eventually, I also glance at my stats window, and of course, add my new skills I obtained. Even with my new title, the Conquest of Adversary, I of course smile at it, seeing it as very beneficial. I'll smile, and eventually Icarus would then bow down to me, and eventually all the rest of the other Shadow Soldiers would do the same. Of course, I'll smile and tell them that I'm looking forward to fighting alongside with all of them, with my eyes glowing blue, as this is the end for this part. Hope you guys enjoy this. I'll see you guys in the next one. Sayonara.